Welcome to another episode of Asexualize My Asexual Life. This is the place to be for education about asexuality, all things asexual. I share my asexual life journey in order to help you in yours. If you haven't already subscribed, hit that great big subscribe button right here, right now. Please hit that bell icon so you get notified of every time I go live like now or post. So, another day of Asexual Perspectives Awareness Month, and today we're going to be discussing how asexuals found out they are asexual. Yes, I'm hanging out in my PJs and my dressing gown today. Oh, my nightshirt actually. So let's get comfortable and let's get to it. So on page 91 of Asexual Perspectives, this is C.A. Altman's story. And how did they discover they are asexual? It was a gradual process. Although I labelled myself asexual 2 years ago, I'd known I wasn't a straight sexual for a long time because I'd never known much about asexuality before then. I didn't know that it was a valid sexual orientation. I thought that maybe I had a low libido or would have sex when I was ready, or was afraid of having sex, or would find the right person who would be the one I'd want to lose my virginity to. From the sexual orientation soup, I first identified as bisexual because I seemed to like males and females equally. After that, I identified as homosexual because I didn't like the opposite gender. And then pansexual after I discovered non-binary folks because I seemed to like, or more accurately, not like everyone equally. After some consideration, a realisation that I had no desire to get sexual with anyone, and the discovery of the Asexuality Visibility Education Network, frequently asked questions, identifying as asexual seemed the most viable option. Yeah, and I think that's really important to note because asexuality is not the same as being afraid of sex, asexual is a sexual orientation that is a genuine sexual orientation that is the lack of sexual attraction. Obviously, you can be a sex repulsed asexual, like I am these days. I'm not afraid of sex. If I want to have sex, I would, but because I'm repulsed by it, it's like pretty meh to me. So, Victoria's story, page 103 of Asexual Perspectives. How did you discover you are asexual? I had recently been part of a conversation in which everyone described their sex life, who they found hot, and since when they had been sexually active. I felt so alien during that conversation that I felt horrible all day. All the feelings I had stored up about being different, childish, or weird started resurfacing. It got so bad that I got drunk and poured my heart out to a friend and basically asked what the hell was wrong with me. She suggested I might be demisexual. During this conversation, I heard the word asexual and asexual spectrum for the first time. The amount of relief I felt after this conversation is indescribable. After that conversation, I spent about 2 to 3 weeks researching asexuality and trying to figure out where I fall on the asexual spectrum. Ironically, it was after reading a demisexual's account of what sexual attraction felt like I began to identify as fully asexual. So yeah, you can find you can find out you're fully asexual because you realize you don't experience any sexual attraction, or you could have one experience where you do experience sexual attraction where you didn't think you would because you were previously sex repulsed, and then you all of a sudden come to find someone who you form a deep emotional connection with and bond like no other, and you could experience sexual attraction, so there are people who didn't identify as demisexual that later on do, and then there's people that realize they're not that at all in the first place, demisexual. So there you go. How did you discover you are asexual? This is Hannah's story on page 123. So I'd always known that I was just not interested, but I was talking to a friend on a rafting trip this summer, and she was openly asexual, and it seemed like a good enough label, so I sort of went with it. That same friend mentioned Avon in passing, and when I got home, I went online and made an account. And with every post I read about someone else's experience, I identified more strongly. So that's what the feedback I've got about this book as well, the Asexual Perspectives book, which is available from Barnes & Nobles, Waterstones, and of course Amazon and all good bookshops. I got told that, you know, that when people read through the different stories in this book, because there's 47 including my own, right? When people read through them, they always find like someone to relate to, and the more they read the stories, they're more like, aha, that sounds like me. So even if you're not every type of asexual in this book, which obviously you wouldn't be, you can still usually relate to part of everyone's story, and there's certainly at least one story for everyone in it. Right, Sappho story, page 141. How did they discover they are asexual? I was at a sleepover with my two best friends. They're both gay trans men, but at the time we were all young and questioning. We turned off the lights and sat talking in the pitch black. We always found it easier to talk about the more taboo topics that way. And we were talking about crushes. When it was my turn to spill the beans, my angsty teenage heartache, they were both shocked to hear that I'd never fancied anyone. One of them told me I might be asexual. I didn't even know what it meant at the time, but I looked it up and eventually decided it was a description that fitted me. See, asexuals can still fancy someone, you know. I get attracted to lots of guys, foreign guys mostly. But you know, I get attracted to guys, and just because I'm asexual doesn't mean to say I can't find attraction. So there are asexuals that don't experience attraction, whereas there are asexuals that experience lots of different types of attractions, just not sexual. And obviously, there's those on the more sexual end of the spectrum that could experience sexual attraction in a limited rare or specific circumstances or experiences that have been not enough to act on it. But a majority of people, you know, don't experience sexual attraction. But you can experience aesthetic attraction, sensual attraction, romantic attraction, emotional attraction, spiritual attraction, creative attraction, clothes attraction. You know, those are lots of the attractions I experience. I experience aesthetic, emotional, intelligence, creative, clothes attraction, romantic attraction, kissing attraction. I experience loads of different attractions, just not sexual. And in my case, I don't experience any platonic attraction. So all my friends I usually have some attraction for in some way. It's a bit annoying, but it is the way it is. I just live with it now. So Zoe's story. How did Zoe discover they are asexual? Page 152. In my 40s, can't remember my exact age, I came across an article in the newspaper. The first word of the headline read asexuality. The moment I read that word, I knew, finally a word to verbalise what was my normal. I read that article and everything clicked into place. I was elated. The article also mentioned Avon's website. Unfortunately, I didn't get an internet connection until many years later, financial restrictions. So I couldn't check it out at the time. I didn't dare use someone else's computer. Even when I did eventually get internet, I initially only visited Avon as a guest, still too afraid to step out of the shadows and into asexuality, afraid of rejection and ridicule. Yeah, my mission is to get asexuality recognised as a sexual orientation throughout the globe, so no asexual lives in fear of ridicule ever again. That's really important. And a lot of asexuals, they just still live in fear. They still don't want to be out on their profile as asexual. They don't want people knowing they're asexual. For me, I have to find a guy that's really open, out and proud about being asexual, because, you know, I am very loud and proud about being asexual myself, and it just wouldn't work unless a guy was out about being asexual, you know, to his family and friends, and not afraid of being out to the world. You know, if he's with me, people are going to know he's asexual unless I say otherwise. Do you know what I mean? So it requires a really strong guy. I haven't met that strong guy for me yet. One day. Until then, I remain happily single. So Katie's story, 265. How did they find out they're asexual? So I had a boyfriend at the time, and our relationship was getting to a point where it's becoming more physical. He could probably sense my aversion, so one day he broached the topic. We had a very open discussion where I told him that I wasn't sure I could go any further. It was he who actually brought up the term asexual, which I'd never heard of before. As soon as I started doing the research, I realised it explained exactly how I felt. And I think that's kind of nice if your if your boyfriend finds that out for you, or your partner, because it shows they care and that they're trying to help you. Do you know what I mean? Well, if they're doing it in a nice way. So Isadora's story. How did Isadora, page 363, find out they're asexual? I was browsing posts on LiveJournal and came across a post about asexuality with a link to the asexual LJ community. After looking at the definition and reading some of the members' posts, I realised they was describing me. And I just think that's so good, you know, when you discover someone else like you. It just makes it feel so awesome for you, you know. You just feel like, wow, I found my team, I found my tribe, I found someone I can relate to, who can relate to me, and I just feel so good. I mean, I love being part of the asexual community. I love having our own community here. It's incredible. I love you all dearly. So, Way Walker's story. How did you discover asexual? In the middle of things, I realised I had never liked this activity. I did it to shut people up, endured it so I wouldn't be shamed for not giving my man what he needed, etc. But yeah, zero interest. Body works properly and all. No pain, but no desire to be doing it. When I reflected, I mostly used sexy times to mentally organise my next art or writing project, figure out my priority items for the next day's office work, that sort of thing. So yeah, it's quite common for asexuals, if they are having sex, to be thinking about other stuff, their projects they're working on, maybe conversations they've had, things they've got to do. Because, you know, obviously sex isn't the main priority and not something that's particularly interesting to us. So it's quite common for our mind to wander off, and that is okay, you know. And if you don't want to have sex, don't have it, because, you know, no one should be pushing themselves to do something that they don't want to do. Darcys Story, page 435. How did you discover asexual? I dated a fair amount as a teen and less as an adult. I tried sex, but it never felt like anything to me. I never felt any emotional attachment, really, but more than that, it just never felt much physically to me. I can feel things, but I also feel sort of detached. I joined Tumblr.com back in 2013, and that's how I was exposed to the term asexual and the information there. That's when I started identifying as asexual. And I think that's true again for some asexuals. They feel completely detached from sex, you know, because it's not something they innately desire, want, or need. So they kind of feel that it's not really who they are, and in that way, it doesn't make sense to them. So, yeah, so it's okay if you're an asexual who is having sex and you feel detached. You know, you can't help who you are. I just would hope for you one day that you'd find someone who loves you without sex, and you wouldn't need to feel that you have to put yourself through all that if you're not enjoying the experience. You know, if you're going to have sex as an asexual, you've got to really be enjoying it in some way for it to be a pleasant experience for you. You don't want it to be traumatic or upsetting or boring, you know. I mean, I think asexuals will get a bit more bored, obviously, because it's not something that we're, like I said, innately interested in. But, you know, you should be able to have as much a good experience having sex as you possibly can if you're an asexual who wants to try that. Because, you know, you only get one life, it's very precious. And if you're not enjoying that, you don't want it, you don't like it, you don't need it, please don't be in a relationship with someone who needs that from you. Because I don't want you to get hurt, you know. You deserve love without sex. You deserve to be in a loving, caring, committed relationship without sex, just as much as a sexual deserves to be in a loving, caring, committed sexual relationship with someone who likes sex like they do, you know? Everyone deserves to be happy and to be loved for who they are. And if you're trying to force yourself to have sex, if you're not really interested, you don't really want it, you're just going through emotions, don't do it. There are some asexuals that don't mind having sex. There's some that are sex positive. That's different, right? If you're sex positive, you enjoy sex. If you're an asexual, good for you. It doesn't stop you being asexual if you don't experience sexual attraction, you know? Anyway, I'm going to love you and leave you for now. Just remember, do not do anything in life you don't want to do. Always be happy with who you are, and you don't owe sex to anyone, right? And don't be afraid to be asexual. Be beautiful asexual you always, because no one's better than being yourself but you. I love you dearly. Anyway, take care. Love you lots. I'll see you on the next video live stream. If you haven't already subscribed, hit that great big subscribe button right here, right now. And please hit that bell icon so you get notified of every time I go live right now, post a new video. I'll see you soon. Happy Asexual Perspectives Awareness Month. Lots of love. Bye.